And we're back. All right, let's jump on into it. How's it going? It's been a minute. Let's talk a little bit about the channel here. That Lowry Markkanen video blew up a little bit more than I thought, but excited. Missed a few days. Gonna try to post more a little bit. College football is just around the corner. I don't think I'll be posting about that. I mean, maybe, but we'll see. But let's just jump on into it. Today we're talking about Ben Simmons, Rajon Rondo, Paul Millsap, DeAndre Jordan, LaMarcus Aldridge, Aaron Gordon. Talking about everybody. So let's just jump on into it. Before we do, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment, tell me where I'm wrong about all my takes, and let's just go. Let's just get into it. All right. Latest on Ben Simmons. So obviously, since we last had made a video, Ben Simmons had requested, I guess, a trade in a way. He just wants out of that place over in Philly. And I'm kind of looking at this in a way where I say, you know, he initially wanted to go to 3 of the 4 California teams. Sorry, Sacramento Kings, you're not on the list. And I just think it's weird that I just don't know if he knows exactly what the market is. And even if he did want to go to like the Lakers or the Clippers or the Warriors, like he needs to also understand that like the team's trading you and the team needs to get back something that they will value in return for trading away a dude who still is an all-star, right? I don't think people will doubt that Ben Simmons is an all-star, but I think he is a dude that is not the superstar that we think that he could have, or that we thought he could have been. But let's get the latest on here. This is from The Athletic here. The Warriors have been mentioned as possible destination for the Sixers to send Ben Simmons. But the teams hadn't engaged in serious trade talks, according to Anthony Slater at The Athletic. Sources tell Slater that discussions on Simmons have been limited to a single phone call before the draft, in which Philadelphia GM Daryl Morey says, or had asked for both Wiggins and James Wiseman from the Warriors. Golden State's 2 picks in this year's draft, so that 7th and 14th pick, and a pair of future first rounders. The Warriors front office declined the offer and no further negotiations took place. Golden State could still get involved, but it doesn't sound like he will, right? I mean, this is, I think for the Sixers to have such a high asking price is just really the big thing that makes this not happen. And I believe that Simmons will stay on the Sixers at the beginning of training camp, even if he's not going to show up. I think we will go into a season next year where Ben Simmons is still on the 76ers. And I would be a little shocked to see if the team moves off of the high asking price, or a team is attracted to making a deal for Ben Simmons, given the high asking price. Now let's talk about some other teams here. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Toronto Raptors have been linked to Ben Simmons most frequently over the summer. And this is from The Athletic again. Derek Bodner says that he believes the Cavaliers could be a wild card team. I don't know. Do you want to add another big, I guess? Taco Fall is the most recent dude to go to Cleveland. Top of it, Lowry Markkanen, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen getting his extension. Let's read this. So this is from Jason Jones in The Athletic. Kings aren't willing to part ways with De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Haliburton, as they should, to acquire Ben Simmons. Maybe there's a deal that's built around Buddy Hield and Marvin Bagley. And here John Gonzalez of The Ringer says, looks at the role that Simmons had an uneasy relationship with Philadelphia fans has played in his desire to leave the team. I mean, that's kind of wild. My personal opinion on Ben Simmons and what could happen. Look, Minnesota is a team I think is a sleeper. I think they have the ability to maybe send D'Angelo Russell over there. I think that's just going to help the salaries match up. So any trade, I saw somebody say like, oh, Anthony Edwards, Karl Anthony Towns, and D'Angelo Russell and Ben Simmons is, killer, right? Obviously, but they don't have the money to be able to do that. They might be able to send somebody else, but again, Philadelphia has to say yes to the deal as well. And I don't know if D'Angelo Russell and some young guys will do it for them, but maybe. It just depends. I think Philly's going to stand pretty firm on their asking price. I know it's ludicrous. I know it's kind of crazy, but a team has to be okay with what they're getting in return for a guy that they value pretty high, even though it doesn't seem that way. So Ben Simmons, I think he's going to stay in Philadelphia before the season. Maybe it's a James Harden deal happens and he moves on after a few games into the season. But look, I don't know what's going to come of this. It'll be really interesting to see what happens. Maybe Minnesota, maybe Toronto. Look, it'll be interesting to see what happens. That's all I'm going to say. Let's get into Rajon Rondo now. So Rondo, let's get rid of my chat. Rondo says he's going back to LA. Rondo, 1 year, $2.6 million, veteran minimum, I believe, is going to clear waivers from the Grizzlies, who he was just acquired from in that Clippers Grizzlies trade. Grizzlies are waiving Rondo, and he is now going to the Los Angeles Lakers, reuniting with LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard, who are also there from their championship run back in the 2020 bubble. And it's interesting. So the buyout takes place, and Rondo goes back to LA. Look, Rondo's an interesting case because I think he means more to a basketball team that you can't see on the stat sheet. He's a floor general. I think he's a relatively good leader. I think he is a guy who probably makes teams a little bit better with his competitive spirit. He's won championships before, so he brings that to a team that is built of mostly new players, some of which haven't won championships, Carmelo and Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. So maybe they are able to squeeze the most that they can get out of these younger players like Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn with Rondo's leadership. So Rondo's a good signing. I don't think it's like a world-breaking, shattering, whatever you want to say kind of a signing, because I ultimately believe he's a dude that's probably a negative for you on your team when he's on the floor. And this is, I think, maybe a move that's more cultural than it is a move that's like helping them immediately. But again, they also did need another ball handler, and I guess Rondo at his age is as good as what you can get. I don't know. Maybe not. I'm not super high on Rondo, but his lack of shooting, but there is playoff Rondo, right? So maybe they get to the playoffs, they'll get a different version of Rajon Rondo. I guess we'll just see if that happens. Next dude I want to talk about is DeAndre Jordan. So DeAndre Jordan will potentially look into this buyout here with the Nets, which I always thought was weird because he signed his deal because he's buddies with Kevin Durant and Kyrie, maybe even James Harden too. But they're friends. Like, he's friends with Kevin Durant. So it made sense for me that the Nets would go get him in the first place, but he didn't play a whole lot last year. I think he stunted some of the growth of Jared Allen before he got traded away, and he's taken away minutes from Nicholas Claxton, who, again, can be okay for the Nets. And so I think his time is kind of done. I think he's a depth piece. I think he's just kind of a backup big at this point of his career, and a team needs to be able to have him in that role for next season. Now, I think that works with the Lakers. However, they have Dwight, they have Marc Gasol, who may or may not be coming back to the Lakers, apparently. It's just interesting. So DeAndre Jordan, I don't know how much the Lakers squeeze out of him, but I do feel like DeAndre Jordan does provide, again, some veteran leadership, a dude who's been to the playoffs before. I think he's a dude that people like, and all that stuff. So let's get into this next portion that I want to talk about is Paul Millsap. So we talked a little bit about how let's throw the chat up. So we talked a little bit about how Paul Millsap is a guy who struggled with Denver. Definitely older, power forward, but he's going to Brooklyn. And I think it's a good, solid pick for the Nets. I think it's a good pickup for them. I just wonder exactly what Paul Millsap has in the tank. I think he can play the center position if need be. I think he can play the 4 if need be. Probably going to play less than 20 minutes. I don't expect anything big from him, but a huge get for the Nets because, look, I was a little disappointed on what they did in free agency. I know they were limited with like veteran minimum contracts, but they brought back Blake Griffin. They bring in Patty Mills. They bring in James Johnson. They draft Cam Thomas out of LSU. So this team is interesting. And obviously we know that the big three there with Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant, that they're going to be good. And they're going to probably beat everybody in their way if they're all healthy. But I think this just adds another little bit of a depth piece for them and maybe gives them a solid 9th, 10th option. But maybe not as intriguing or as surprising, I should say, as this next 9th to 10th option, and that is LaMarcus Aldridge. So 7-time, and this is from Shams here, 7-time NBA All-Star LaMarcus Aldridge has been cleared to play again, passing all the necessary tests, according to The Athletic. The Nets are leaders to sign LaMarcus Aldridge. So Aldridge back on the Nets after he left early last season with a apparent issue, a health issue. I believe it was his heart. I forget, though, to be honest with you. And so Aldridge and Millsap in one day. Wow, that's a pretty big haul. And this is one of the reasons why I kind of avoided doing the off-season winners and losers yet, just because there's moves that still are made. Now, is this going to move the Nets to like, oh, they were losers and now they're winners or anything like that? No. But the Aldridge is a guy who makes a difference. And I was kind of looking at rotations, and I was looking at the 9th and 10th guy off of the bench for the Nets, and I was kind of like, so are they going to play Cam Thomas in the regular season, like relatively high minutes for a rookie who was taken as low as he was? And Aldridge and Millsap kind of take up some of those minutes now. They add front court depth, and I think the Nets are pretty solid right now. But this wasn't something that we knew was going to happen a week or two ago. So I'm glad I have yet to do my off-season video, and we'll do it. We'll do it eventually. We'll get there. But the Nets getting LaMarcus Aldridge, how about that? That's pretty solid. I mean, again, I don't think he's playing more than 20 minutes a game, but interesting. Let's talk about Thaddeus Young. He's apparently the new commodity of the kind of trade market that has been built post this offseason, or I guess during or because of the offseason. The Suns are among the contending teams that have pursued Thaddeus Young. Young, who will earn $14.19 million in contract year, was sent from the Bulls to the Spurs in the sign trade deal that landed DeMar DeRozan to Chicago. Look, I think Thad Young is actually a pretty valuable piece. Now, how the Suns get him is interesting because they would have to throw in, I think, Jalen Smith, who they've already mentioned that they're not really too high on. And so it would probably include Jalen Smith. It would probably include maybe some more dump salary, I think. I'm just trying to think of their salary situation right now. So, yeah, I mean, Smith, a young forward who hasn't developed at least to the Suns' liking, to San Antonio for Thad Young. Interesting. I think Young actually is a really good piece, and if he could be another dude that could play maybe the backup 4 or 5 minutes for the Suns, I think that's a huge get. Now, there are other teams that maybe could get in there, but look, Phoenix lost Saric last year. I already mentioned about Jalen Smith, their pick from the 2020 draft. They don't value Smith at all, and Saric is hurt, and I don't know if they really felt comfortable with Kaminsky being their kind of backup big. And so Thad Young would be a really great option. I think if the Suns are able to land him, that would be huge. So somebody to keep your eye on, a player that could move the needle. Again, why we don't make our offseason video immediately right after the first 2 days of the offseason is because of this. If the Suns land Thaddeus Young, I think they might have had one of the better summers or one of the better off seasons this last summer, or during the summer, I should say. All right, 2 more things. Aaron Gordon and the Nuggets hope to agree on an extension. So Aaron Gordon was traded from the Orlando Magic to Denver last season. Denver obviously liked what they got from him as far as his defense. His offense has always been a question mark, but I think he does provide value for this team when they're at full strength. And by full strength, I mean when they get Jamal Murray back, because they need offense, and Gordon provides defense at a high level. But maybe a team that doesn't have a kind of on-ball creator like Jamal Murray, as far as a shot creator, Gordon's offense might be a little bit more damaging when he doesn't have a guy like that versus when he does. So I like Gordon. I think he's pretty good for this team. And look, extending him would be ideal, right? You're not going to play a season and a half of Aaron Gordon and then just lose him for nothing, because they gave up RJ Hampton to acquire him. And I think it's just the right move for Denver to do. I don't see how they get anybody better than an Aaron Gordon type there. Look, their core four going forward is Gordon, is Jamal Murray, is Jokic, the MVP, and is Michael Porter Jr. So I think Michael Porter is probably the guy who's going to be that main scorer for them outside of Jokic, but he's kind of like their playmaker big. And so I just think that when they get healthy, I believe the Nuggets can be pretty solid, and this is a good example of what they could be and kind of what they're aiming for going into their future years. Let's end on this. Hawks center Clint Capela has agreed on a 2-year, $46 million extension. 2 years left on his current deal. His contract is now going through the 2025 season. So this is interesting. He's getting about roughly 21 million then through the 2025 season. So it'll be interesting to see kind of the Hawks are very comfortable with him being a center. I think he's actually a very serviceable center on a very workable contract. There's guys around the league, Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert, they're making so much more money than that, and he is providing a very good defensive, presence for the Hawks. And he's a lob guy for Trae Young. He obviously plays defense. He's a big dude. Look, I think it's a good pickup. I think it's a good re-signing for the team. And I think, what else are you going to find out on the center market in the future? Because the high-end centers that don't need years to develop are going to be guys you can get late in the first round or early in the second round of a draft. And there's not a market for people. I mean, Cody Zeller is a dude who's serviceable at best, but he signed a minimum contract. So, I mean, you're not going to get these good centers in the league unless you can give them high-end money. And that's what Rudy Gobert, that's what Jokic, that's what Joel Embiid gets. But Capela's not quite there, and I think he's kind of the tier down below as far as good, effective centers. Non-high usage, because this team has a lot of playmakers. They have Trae Young, they have Bogdanovich, they have John Collins, who's coming back, and so there's a lot of high usage for other players and not much usage for the center. So I think Capela kind of works in their rotation. I think he's a solid fit for them. One other thing I want to talk about before we leave the stream that went a little bit over what I wanted, but that's fine, is let's talk about the Dallas Mavericks really quick. So the Dallas Mavericks have worked out Isaiah Thomas, Lance Stevenson, Monte Ellis. They need something. They're trying to get something. And I am kind of shocked by this. I mean, if anything comes of it, maybe they don't sign any of them and it's just fine. It's whatever. But if they do go and sign one of these dudes, I think the Mavericks are just losing their minds, because they understand that because there's no immediate Kristaps Porzingis deal coming out, and because there is no crazy player that wants to go. Look, Kyle Lowry didn't want to go there. Other free agents didn't want to go there. And I think there's an issue. I think there's a potential problem brewing in Dallas. Maybe Luka is holding on to the ball too much. Maybe people aren't super high on Mark Cuban, and then you bring in a polarizing coach like Jason Kidd, and it's just something where you're like, wow, this makes me as a player, if I'm putting myself into their shoes, this makes me not want to go to Dallas. So yeah, super interesting. And we'll see what happens with Dallas. Anything else? I'm trying to look here through Hoops Rumors just to double check to see if anything else comes up that's like super crazy. Nothing. So in the future, we're going to be making videos on, we'll talk a little bit more about the offseason as it happens. If any trades happen, obviously we'll be doing that. If anything else happens, we'll make a video on it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thanks for joining me today on the live stream. More videos will likely come out, but we'll see. Rotation videos. I think at the middle of this month, I will be doing team by team previews as well. So get excited for that. And if anything else happens, we'll go from there. Maybe I throw in a college football video. I don't know. Does anyone want to see that? I've been talking a lot about the NBA. Most of my videos are on the NBA. But if college football comes up, people want to hear that. I have my top 25 already written out. And yeah. So anyway, thanks for joining me on the live stream today. We'll see you later. And we'll see you in the next video.